What's up, Walking Dead friends and family? It's Brian Castrillo back with another review, and this is for Fear the Walking Dead episode Padre, and this episode was really good. Now, this wasn't heavy on action, but it was heavy on story and just backstory. It was just really done well, and this is kind of the information that we needed to kind of go forward. And it starts off with Teddy looking at Alicia at the door. Remember where he left her and said that she's going to basically lead the new world? And then ultimately, we see she's stuck in there. She goes looking. She finds the armory down in the bunker where another guy captures her and kind of brings her out. And she brings her out to this room where, everybody, this was the same room that if you go back to beginning of episode or season 6, when we were teasing you got all those Madison teases, and there's sort of a theme coming. Remember that walker that was on that little tree inside there? That was the room that they brought her to. And that walker, of course, back then looked like Madison. And this guy basically is grabbing Alicia, almost puts her up to that walker, and it's going to bite her in the face. But then Arno comes in. Now, Arno, of course, is the guy who is attacking Victor Strand. And he stops this guy and basically says, no, this is who Teddy told us about, and she's going to lead us. And Alicia, being Alicia, who she learned from her mom, Madison, basically takes that guy, and this is my favorite action scene of the episode, and throws him up into that walker, gets him bit, but Arnos doesn't want to fight because he believed in what Teddy had to say, and he wanted to stick by Alicia. Now, then we go back to the scene from this previous episode where, the smoke's coming in. Morgan had just met Alicia, and the whole community's trying to get away. You got walkers coming up from the other side, and then they get away, and they're trying to escape, this whole situation. And Alicia just wants to get, cover for her people, and then she shows, Morgan this walker eventually, but she doesn't want to say anything about it. How this walker is going to lead them to Padre. And of course, Morgan, he wants answers. This is Morgan. I expect nothing less from him. And wow, this a lot of details in this. I had to take some notes in this one. But the question I kept asking is how would a walker lead you to a place that you don't know where it is? That struck me as odd. But now we come back to where the bunker back in time, prior to the missiles, and Arno is given her a room, and this room we learned later was Senator Vasquez's room, and we see the folder with Padre on it. It's top secret, confidential. And that's kind of where Alicia learns this. And we learn that Padre is not on the island because that would be too obvious, and which makes sense. If you have a secret, bunker or fort that you want to keep hidden from everybody, you do something to throw them off the trail. Alicia, now they eventually find Will, the group where she's at with Arno, and they were about to kill him, and they put him up to, Senator Vasquez, the walker. And Alicia, this is where Alicia basically assumes command, and she says, I'm doing what Teddy said, but there will be no putting people in the dirt anymore. We are not going to kill anybody down here. And she basically takes control of that group, and everybody's listening. So Teddy must have instructed them very well on what he thought of Alicia, which I kind of hope we get to see a little more backstory than we did of Teddy, but still. And we learned that Senator Vasquez was the only one who knew where this Padre was, wherever this is, and it has enough, food and shelter and supplies and everything they needed. And I'm just loving the way the story is building, from the backstory, kind of the details, because of what we learned from Will, that first episode, season 7, when he went up and met Strand. And Alicia, now we come back to where Morgan and Alicia is, and of course Morgan still, asking her about this walker. He's trying to get that information. She doesn't really want to give that out. But then Victor, Strand, and his rangers show up, and they're shooting at them, trying to kill Morgan. And Morgan notices, as they're going, she kind of falls, and she's looking like she's sweating a little bit. But Alicia tells Morgan that, well, she hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. She hasn't slept in probably twice that. And she seems a little delirious, but she says she's going to be fine. And ultimately, we see, Morgan still chasing him, but they get to this cliff, and they throw this Walker Vasquez, over the cliff and jump after. Of course, Morgan thinks this is foolish. And at this time, I'm thinking this is foolish, because how is a walker going to show you where something is? This guy is dead. But they fight, what Alicia eventually tells Morgan is that there's an echo that she learned, or she believes that there's an echo of who they used to be, and that this walker will remember. And Morgan says, no, that's how Dwayne died. And this, of course, is a callback to season 1 of The Walking Dead, where they, he believed he saw his son die because his son thought his mom was still in there, or Morgan did, and he just couldn't react quick enough. And this is kind of bringing back those memories from Morgan. And in those, as Victor's group is chasing him, they had said that, out loud, that Morgan tried to kill Strand, and of course Morgan had to admit this to Alicia. But there's more to it than that. And now we go back to where the bunker was, and we see Alicia and Will. They're crawling through these sewer tunnels, and all of a sudden the bombs go off. We don't see the bombs, but we feel the vibration. The rocks are falling, and they kind of separated Will and Alicia from that. And Alicia is on the side of the walker, who ultimately comes back and bites her on the arm. And she has to use her weapon, which she got back from Arno, to cut off her arm. And later on in the episode, we see that she was brought out by Will, who had her bandaged up. He had her on antibiotics and was kind of bringing her back. But Alicia had asked Will inside the drainage tunnels, that if she ever gets a fever, to kill her and do not let her go. But Will, he cared for her, which we knew back from episode 1, where he said he loved her, and he wasn't going to let her die. So it was interesting that he was able to save her. But now we come back to where Morgan and Alicia are being chased by Strand, and well, this actually this happened before, at least in the episode before we found out she was actually bit in a tunnel. We seen her bit by a walker because Strand was trying to kill Morgan, and because Alicia would not come to the, back to the tower with him. And he said, we'll kill Morgan and kill this walker. And we see her get bit in the arm. And at that point, I'm like, oh my God, this can't be happening. And Victor, what the fuck? Excuse my language, and even in the tunnel, I'm the same way when I learned that, because I love the Clark family, I love Alicia, and to lose her would be devastating. But what was kind of cool about when she revealed her arm is that she still had her own skeletal hand attached to her somehow with this arm piece that almost reminded me of Merle. And honestly, one of Strand's rangers that he had with him sounded just like him, which was kind of odd. But it just reminded me of Merle Dixon in this. And So we get back to the tower where Morgan and Alicia is, and she's telling him that she may still be she believes she's still infected, and she doesn't know how much time she has left, but she wants to get to this she wanted this Padre, but Victor shows up and was saying that's kind of a fool's errand, and that doesn't really exist. But then we see Will crawling out, and she sees his back's broken, his face is smashed, and she gets Morgan or Victor to admit that he did that. And she was like, "Why did you do this?" And she says, "Well, because he said he loved you, and I wanted to hurt you to keep you away." And Alicia goes, she's now pissed off, and she was almost going to come into the tower, and she basically now threatened him with war. And she said, "I'm going to take the one thing that is dear to you, and that's his tower." So now we got an all-out war situation coming. And if you remember, in one of my previous videos, I said this reminds me of the all-out war with Rick Grimes versus Negan in that poster. And I had predicted that Madison would be ultimately the one to kill Victor Strand. That's just kind of where my thought process was. But now we have Alicia versus Victor Strand in this all-out war scenario. But we got to wait till April 17th to figure something out. But yeah, what did you guys think of this episode? Did you like some of the details? The callbacks to, Teddy, to Will, learning his backstory. I love some of the special effects. And as someone who does special effects for this, the zombie walk here in Columbus, Ohio, I appreciated how intricate and the details were in a lot of these walkers. And even when we saw Alicia cut her arm off, and you can see, the even though it was dark in there, you can see the blood kind of oozing out, and I really enjoyed this episode. What did you guys think? What questions do you have going forward? What do you think about this all-out war, scenario coming out, even though we got to wait till April 17th? But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, and go watch Talking Dead. And what did you, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, throw me a comment down there. Let me hear from you. And as always, I love to throw a shout out to my friends, and this one is no different. So I'm going to shout out to Squawking Dead. This podcast is absolutely amazing, and they break down details that you didn't realize that you wanted. And this is a podcast that you need to check them out. Check them out on Twitter. Check out their Ko-fi. You definitely want to check them out. And don't forget, I have this giveaway coming out. Check out one of my videos where I'm giving away an actual Norman Reedus autograph figurine. But just find that video, check out the details. And as always, thank you for watching. Love you guys.